Today we have a really great speaker, Mark Tibbs, who has his own financial counseling company called ENRY, and we're lucky to have him. His in-laws live here, and that's how I got to know him. But he's fabulous, and he really has a heart for this, especially a heart for younger people. So like I'm talking to him about my son and getting my son started on doing things properly from day one. His name's Mark Tibbs, and we're happy to have him. He's going to talk to us about credit freezes. Thanks, Mark.
Hi, Jane. Thank you. So I've known Jane a couple years now. So, how many people have financial coaching? Really? Financial? Mr. Mike, welcome to the party. So one person has heard the term financial coaching. Let me explain to you first, before we get into the credit freeze part, I'm going to explain to you what a financial coach is. A financial coach is very different than what you hear as a financial advisor. Okay, so a financial advisor, they expect you to walk in with a certain amount of money for them to go invest, right? So 50, 100, however much, that's what they need you to walk in with to become a client of theirs, right? Financial coaching is budgeting, credit management, debt management, planning, education about what different financial terms mean. We cover all of those type of things. So if you've never heard the term financial coach, that's what a financial coach is. And actually, I'm a certified financial coach. I'm an accredited financial counselor, AFC. So I went through a program. I sat for a board exam, have over 1,000 hours in financial education and one-on-one financial coaching to become a certified financial coach. So one of the other big things about a financial coach, why they're so significant, is that they are good financial coaches, just like good financial advisors, should be acting in your best interest. Understanding where you're coming from, what you're interested in, and making recommendations based on your specific scenario and in your best interest. So what I mean by that is if you go to a financial advisor and they recommend some financial, and think of it this way, if you go through a financial coach and you are solid with all your fundamentals, you get through all that, the progression is you'd be a candidate for a financial advisor at some point, right? You'd save some money, you'd have all your budget under control, your cash flow under control, your debt under control. You have the right mindset when it comes to spending your money. You don't go out and just willy-nilly spend more than you have, right? Those types of things. And so you'd be ready to graduate to a financial advisor. And a financial coach can also help you understand what a good and bad financial advisor might look like as well, right? So not all financial advisors are good, right? Not all of them are bad. There's plenty of them out there that are willing to take your money. It's just a financial coach could help you understand what questions to ask, what you should be looking for. And so when you're making these critical, potentially lifetime decisions, a financial coach can help you. Coaches, we're also fiduciaries, which means we act in the client's best interest. Okay? With student debt. Student debt right now is a major issue for so many people. And a financial coach, myself included, can help people set themselves up for negotiating their student loans. Now, I'm not going to become the loan person, but I'll help them understand what their options are and help them get those options set up for them that works for them, right? So those kinds of things. Credit card, debt, big purchases. Good question. So the question was, how do financial coaches get compensated versus financial advisors? It's a really good question. So financial advisors, typically they get a percentage of the assets that they manage for you, 1.5%, and I help people understand those fees actually as well. Financial coaches, it varies. So a financial coach should not be taking any assets from you to manage. They should be on some kind of fee structure. And I'm on a flat fee structure. So I do this because I love it. I love helping people that want to help themselves financially. And when they get there, it's wonderful. People cry when they feel like they have light at the end of the tunnel financially, when they feel like they have more control over their personal finances. I do a flat fee. There are some financial coaches out there that charge a whole lot. I'm not gonna lie. I am not one of those people. We do have nonprofits around the country and here locally that do financial coaching for people under $55,000 adjusted gross income per year. So we actually have a nonprofit here in town that does nonprofit financial coaching, which I did many hours for as a nonprofit, as a volunteer as well, for under 55K HEI, which is line 11 on your last year taxes. On your 1040, it's line 11 is that number that they're looking at from your previous year taxes, which would be 2020. I'm a flat fee. It's a percentage of your HEI that we work off of, but it's very, very affordable. Some coaches do charge quite a bit for packages. If that's what you're interested in, that's great, but I can offer all that for a lot less. If somebody's in dire straits and they have a lot of debt, they have a lot of credit card. So one of the things about financial coaching is versus financial advising. Financial advising, typically you're a little bit more along the path. You're probably a little bit more mature in that cycle. Financial coaching, I tend to work with folks like that. I prefer to work with folks like that who aren't, when I pull their credit report and it's 100 pages long, those are not my clients. If your credit report is 100 pages long, you're going to need a whole lot more than just me. And I've seen 100-page credit reports, which means they have a lot of collections, they have a lot of defaulted credit cards. It's a mess, and it takes a whole lot more than just me to navigate all that. But if somebody has the desire, they haven't gone off the cliff yet, so to speak, financially, a financial coach would be a good candidate. Financial advisors don't want to mess with credit card debt. They don't want to mess with pulling your credit report. They don't want to mess with your cash flow. And that's the big difference between financial coaching and financial advising. Or you'll hear RIA, Registered Investment Advisor, same thing as a financial advisor, not a financial coach. Okay? All right. Again, and you're right. There's all kinds of things that happen, and that's where a financial coach can help you understand what they're talking about. We're not lawyers. If we need legal counsel, we'll refer and get you a lawyer, but I can't speak for all financial advisors. I did go through the Certified Financial Planning coursework, the CFP coursework. I chose to be a financial coach instead of a financial advisor because to me it means so much more. Don't know where to start. Some people don't know where to go. I've had many clients who they didn't know that there's so many resources out there. They didn't know what they needed to go look for. And that's where financial coaching can help somebody that doesn't understand financial terms and terminologies and where to go. That's where a financial coach can really be beneficial. Okay? All right, I'm very excited about this. I could talk about this stuff all day long. I taught money classes at the county jail, the Travis County Jail, for several years. So I taught female inmates, military veterans, and youth inmates at the Travis County Jail for several years. I'd go in every week and go through a curriculum with the candidate or the inmates that they had screened and nominated for the program. I have some interesting stories.
I bet.
Interesting stories. Anyway, all right. Credit freezes are just one tool. And I want to make that clear. It's one tool that you can use to help protect yourselves. It's not identity theft protection, which is a different tool. But credit freezes are, their intent is to prevent people from fraudulently getting a car loan with your social security number, or getting a mortgage loan in your name with your social security number, or applying for credit cards in your name. A credit freeze, if you put in credit freezes on your credit reports, it'll prevent that. So if you put in a credit freeze and anybody know the 3 credit reporting agencies?
TransUnion is
TransUnion, Experian, Equifax, right. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion are the 3 official credit reporting agencies. They all report different things, but so you have to do a credit freeze with each one, okay? You can't do just one, because if somebody applies for a car loan in your name with your social, and you don't have a credit freeze, say on TransUnion, and the car loan company, submits a credit check against TransUnion, it'll go through. If you have a credit freeze on your credit reports, they are required to notify you before anything happens. And they'll notify you because you have a credit freeze on your credit reports. So they won't approve any loans, any credit cards, nothing, until they contact you and notify you and say, hey, somebody's trying to apply for a car loan in your name on your credit report. So those big loans, they're always going to run a credit check, right? You hear that they're going to run a credit check. When you moved into Overture, for example, you ran a credit check, right? If you have a credit freeze on your credit reports, then they can't apply for credit cards, they won't be approved for credit cards. Any of those kinds of things will not be approved. And so that's what you're preventing, is some form of fraud, identity theft against those people that nowadays, there's a good chance your information's out there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Good chance. So that's why credit freezes can be so important. And you have to do it with each one. So the sheet here, you don't have to take all these notes. I put a lot of the links on the sheet for you, a lot of the information. You do have to do one with each agency. So you have to go, and I put the links on the sheet for you. You have to go to Equifax. You have to go to Experian. You have to go to TransUnion and do that credit freeze on each one, okay? Some of them, it's very easy. Experian's fairly easy. Equifax can be a little cumbersome at times. For one of them, you have to actually create a login, create an account, and then set up the credit freeze. But if you can get, if you know how to do it, you can get somebody else to help you do it, it will provide the protection against you from somebody randomly trying to apply for something in your name, okay? Yes?
But then if I do that and say I want to apply for a loan because I want to buy a new car, I have to go to each one and take the credit freeze off?
So it's a good question. The question is, so if I want to go apply for a car loan and I have credit freezes on my credit report, what do I need to do? So the first thing you can ask them is, whoever you're working with, you can ask them, who do you pull the credit check against? And they should be able to tell you, hey, we're going to pull against Equifax. And then you could just thaw Equifax, right? Or TransUnion, if they say TransUnion. Now, if they don't know, if they're not sure, you could have somebody like a financial coach. I help people do this, right? So you can thaw. You could set up the thaw for a month, and then it refreezes on whatever date you choose. So you can set that up.
Freeze in place, how long does it last?
Forever. Until you thaw it, that credit freeze is in place.
Better
protecting
remember
you.
your password.
You gotta remember, you may have to remember a password or two. Yeah, Margie. Maybe. But yes, it's as long as you keep it there. So there's also a little different. There's something called a credit lock. You'll hear the term credit lock or see the term credit lock. I want you to do a credit freeze, not a credit lock. And here's why. Credit locks do not have the same federal and state protections against somebody stealing your credit. Credit freezes have much more legal ramifications and restrictions and backing by the federal and state governments. So you have to read the fine print, you have to understand it, but a credit lock is not going to afford you the same protections as a full credit freeze. And they'll advertise it, they'll say, okay, you can do a credit lock and you can just unlock it on your phone.
Yeah.
What they don't tell you, right, is that you're not getting the same protections by the law as a credit freeze. Little things like this, they make a difference. So you might have to thaw all 3 credit reports at the end of the day. It lasts forever. What was your question, Janice?
Oh, Jerry kind of answered it. It was how long does it last when you put a freeze?
And you can thaw it at any time. You can thaw it permanently if you so choose. If you're like, I don't want to do this, you can thaw it permanently. You don't have to have it at all. But in today's day and age, just like scams, just like the IRS scams and all the other things, it's rampant, right?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Chase Bank has this thing, if you lose your credit card,
Mhm.
or you think it's been stolen, you can lock it for a period and then unlock it. Are you saying that it's better to freeze it than lock it?
So these are two different topics. So
Okay.
the credit card specifically that you think may have been stolen is not the same thing as we're talking here.
Okay.
The credit lock is different than them.
It is, but you said that locks weren't as good and I wondered.
Well, in that scenario, when your credit card's been potentially stolen, it is a good thing. But in the context of the credit freeze versus credit lock, the credit freeze is much better. Is that, what's that?
Credit freeze, when you set it up, is that set up in any government files or just with the credit freeze companies?
It's with the credit freeze companies. So
So you basically leave it locked in.
when you do a credit freeze, it'll actually be on your credit report that your credit is frozen, and that's it. So this also applies to kids under 18 even. There is an increasing trend that people are stealing social security numbers from kids that are under 18. Yes, it's happening. So, I recommend to people, if your kid's not going to be applying for a lot of credit anytime soon and they have a social security number, that they should consider a credit freeze on those kids' credit reports. Because the last thing you want to have happen is they have a social, they may have a bank account, whatever. If they have a social, they have a credit report. Yes, and you can freeze their credit. You can freeze their credit reports because they're denied. And they're like, "Why did I get denied for a simple credit card?" And then it all comes out that hey, potentially somebody was applying for credit cards with the kid's credit card, with the kid's social, and nobody had any idea. So if you get random mailings, if your kids get random mailings, if you start seeing credit cards coming in their names, that's a huge red flag that something's going on. So a credit freeze can help protect those kids from that type of activity. Okay? And I don't mean to be, oh my God. These are some tools that you can use you can easily help protect yourself. Okay. All day. Student loans are one of the debts that are not forgivable in bankruptcy. So if you declare bankruptcy, student loans are actually federal loans. Federal student loans are not forgivable, not forgiven in bankruptcy, period. So I also did include a link on here. There's a couple other freezes or things that are good practices. There's also a telecom and utility freeze that can be set up. And you know, I helped Marion and Wilton set all this stuff up, right? The utility and telecom freeze means same theme as the credit freeze. So when you set up a utility and telecom freeze, and the link's on there and everything, people cannot people can't go get a cell phone in your name. People can't go get a Grande account in your name. People can't go set up an electricity bill account in your name when you set up a utilities and telecom freeze. So a lot of people aren't aware of that there's this service out there, but they basically prevents people from applying for different utilities in your name.
Is there a fee for that?
No fee.
Well, this popped
No fee.
When we had a big freeze back here, you know, the utility rates, all of a sudden are going from, say, $200 a month to $10,000.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, then you got this mess of who's paying, and guess who's paying for it. And they should protect yourself.
Yeah. So utilities, telecom freeze is another tool you can use. Also recommend to people to make sure that you register yourself to be able to log into your Social Security account. You should go in there and be able to log into your account. And there's a place where you can set up for you to receive emails and messages on updates about your Social Security account.
Yeah.
So again, the idea behind this is if somebody were to steal your Social Security number and start using it for different things, or trying to claim your Social Security type of thing, if you have logged into your account, you've set up where you get messages and you get updates about your Social Security account, you'll be notified. You'll start getting messages that somebody's trying to do something with your Social Security account, right? So I always recommend people set up their Social Security account once a year. Go log into it, check it out, and make sure everything looks okay. And you'll be getting any messages if something's going on with your account. Okay, so it's just another little tool that you can use. Just to, you get that awareness. If something you start getting messages, you start getting emails, you're like, hey, what's going on here, right? So if you have a credit freeze set up and you have your Social Security account where you have logged in and you're getting messages, you're setting yourself up to really be aware if somebody is starting to mess or steal your identity.
You can also set up your visas the same way, so you can set it up and you can log in. I know some people log in every day and look at all the activity.
Yeah.
So in the morning, they just check and see if there's any strange activity.
That's a good point. If you start seeing random charges show up on your credit card statement, right?
Mark, if you were making the point about you have underage or minor children,
Right.
and does that same thing apply if they need to log into Social Security?
So the question is, for people under 18 years old, for their Social Security, right? In addition to the credit freeze and those kinds of things. Yes, it does apply. So if they have a Social Security number, you want to think about setting them up with a login on their Social Security number so that you're getting those messages as well. Because if they get your Social Security number and they start using it for whatever things, you can be in trouble. You can be in trouble. And another different topic, but identity theft. It's these types of tools, these things that you can try and help protect yourself up front. My goal is that we don't have to deal with identity theft down the road.
Okay.
Identity theft it can take a lot of money and a lot of time to work your way out of identity theft. What's one of the first things you do if you've identified yourself as a victim of identity theft? What's one of the first things you want to do?
Call your bank.
Freeze your
Credit agencies.
freeze your credit cards.
File a police report.
Oh.
File a police report immediately. You're going to need that piece of paper. You want to file a police report up front. If you know you've been a victim of identity theft, if you're getting all these random credit card statements, file a police report and keep that report. Because everybody, first question they're going to ask you is, do you have some documentation? Do you have a police report? Okay? All right. Any other questions or anything related to the credit freezing or financial coaching or any thoughts? Any?
On the fraud side, you can get protection for fraud. Sometimes
You can. So it wasn't part of today's conversation.
it's there exists, so if you get stung, you just call them when you've done it, or something. I just got it, and their lawyers and jump in
Yeah.
and of course.
Yeah.
So you're paying for it, but it's worth it.
What do you think of LifeLock?
What? LifeLock.
The question was about LifeLock, and I'm not super familiar with them.
They keep an eye on everything.
Yeah, so any kind of identity theft, there's numerous identity theft offerings out there. LifeLock is one. I haven't heard bad things about them. Any kind of identity theft tool that you want to use, if you get it through USAA or you get it through, a reliable source.
Is that something you pay for?
Usually identity theft protection is a fee. Yeah.
It's like $8 a month if you're not very likely to
You pay monthly.
And if it's another tool, like they'll start, so they do scans and they do searches and they're monitoring your credit reports, they're monitoring different things, and if they start getting the red flags about your information, then you'd be notified that something's going on.
But the good thing is they also back you up to $1 million if.
It's a very good point. So there's usually some insurance that comes, identity theft insurance is what they call it, that comes with it.
And there's a bunch of lawyers behind that policy, because that's right.
Right? Any other questions, any other thoughts?
In my case, like I'm the power of attorney for my mother,
Yep.
and she sold her home like 5 years ago, and all her credit is down to one credit card, but the name is shared between 3 people.
Okay.
Should I go back and freeze some of her credit? I don't even look at her credit report.
So Janice, that's a good question. The question was about, being co-signers on
Yeah.
credit or different types of things. And so, first of all, that credit card that's in multiple names is on everybody's credit report.
Right.
So if there's any issues with it, it's going to be reported on everybody's credit report. Second of all, you should probably, do a credit freeze. If they have any kind of credit at all, or they have a social, a
Yes.
credit freeze is not bad. Especially if they're not going to have a thought for any reason, it's a no-brainer.
You're responsible.
And you're responsible if somebody, not for her social security number, but if somebody stole her social security number and went out and applied for 10 credit cards without you knowing about it, you wouldn't know about it until it's too late. But if you do a credit freeze on her credit reports, on all 3, and you
Yeah.
just leave it alone, it'll prevent that.
Okay.
See, it's a conservator.
Yeah, so if you co-sign on any loans, any student loans, any car loans, anything,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
that is recorded on every co-signer's credit report. So some people are not aware of that. Thank you. This has been fun. I can talk about it all day long. Thank you.